Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're gonna be, reacting to some car tests. So of course, let's be looking at car, drive tests and stuff. So of course I like Ford Escapes, so we're of course gonna start having one of these videos over here. So, I really like the day one, but if we go down more, you can find more right here. The Ford Escape Hybrid. Now, of course, I like this video right here, so this is what we're going to start with. Now, of course, I'm already watched. Some of the video.
Normal here. Hybrid. We have the 2.5 liter Atkinson Cycle 4-cylinder and an 88 kilowatt electric motor that makes a combined 200 horsepower. All that's connected to an eCVT transmission. I've been really excited to drive this new Escape Hybrid because I'm kind of cross-shopping it with the RAV4 Hybrid. I know later on this spring, Ford is going to be releasing the plug-in variant that'll have about 30 miles of electric range. And that's pretty compelling too, and will probably be the way to go versus this standard mild hybrid Escape. But I'm interested to see how I feel about this compared to the RAV4 Hybrid, which is probably my favorite SUV crossover on sale today. This is a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact in its dimensions and feel. And I've put about 10 miles on it so far. So these aren't my first impressions, but really I honestly haven't floored it yet. So we'll get into that. First though, let's take a walk around on this, and you can hear that 4-cylinder just kicked in. It's a hybrid that you can even rev the engine on. Wow, look at that. Can't do that on the Prius. It's a really interesting design for the new Escape. I actually haven't driven any variant of this yet. To me, it looks just like the Porsche Macan, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's a pretty good-looking vehicle. It has nice proportions. I love this red color. The wheels look good. I think overall, this is a pretty attractive SUV. It even doesn't really have much visual difference from the standard non-hybrid Escape. We have a pretty low deck loading height here. A lot of cargo space. I mean, this is plenty. I think with the seats folded down, it's about 66 cubic feet. No spare tire in this car. I assume you can get a spare tire kit that kind of just fits over the battery. We have a lot of hard plastics on the doors and throughout the cabin. Ford hasn't done as good of a job as hiding these as in some of its competition. But as far as space back here goes, I think the back seats have a pretty ample amount of room. The battery pack is under the rear seats here. And it's a little bit smaller of a battery pack. I read that it was about a third of the size of the previous Escape Hybrid. And that's how they were able to kind of create more interior space as a result. I have plenty of room back here. I feel perfectly comfortable. I have a decent amount of headroom at 5'10". Driver's seat set to my seating position as well. We have a nice panoramic sunroof. Really pretty nice, simple, attractively laid out cabin. No complaints here. The leather on these seats feels good. Everything's a nice deep black. We've got a 12-volt plug outlet there. Some rear climate vents. And yeah, pretty standard. It feels very along the lines of what Ford's been doing lately. Easy to get in and out of. You get a nice beefy key fob with remote start. Alright, let's take it for a drive here. We've got a little bit of snow on the ground today. Might even test the all-wheel drive system a little bit. We do have a few different drive modes. But we have normal drive mode, eco, sport, slippery, which seems like the appropriate mode for today, deep snow and sand, which is interesting. I need to read a little bit more about that. I wonder if it kind of distributes torque throughout the different wheels and gets you through off-road environments a little bit better. And of course, back to normal. Let's go to slippery and see what happens here. I don't see any traction control buttons, and I'm not really going to go digging through the menus to turn everything off, because this is just a normal car. There's nothing really sporty or fancy about this. We're on all-season tires, so we don't really have a lot of grip on these surfaces, but it is giving me a little bit of slip here in this parking lot. In slippery mode, seems to be a little bit friendly to not so grippy conditions. Getting a little bit of torque braking on the inside wheels to get the car rotated when I'm understeering. Okay, let's see how that compares to normal here. Oops. It's a very unscientific test at about 10 miles an hour here, but it does give us a little bit of an idea of what this car's like to drive in slippery conditions. Normal mode feels about the same to me, so maybe slippery just kind of reduces your throttle input. On these stock all-season tires, there's not a lot of grip in the snow, so if you're going to be living in a snowy environment, the all-wheel drive of this Escape Hybrid isn't going to save you. You're going to have to get some snow tires or more aggressive all-seasons. You can hear the regen from the braking. Alright, let's give it the beans and see what this can do here. It's just a smooth, seamless wallop of power. It's actually pretty good. It feels pretty quick. Despite this being around 3,700 pounds, there's a lightness to this Escape. In the controls and the steering and the way the suspension, the way it rides over bumps. And I'm actually surprised at the power. This isn't the fastest variant by any means. The 2-liter turbo, there's around 250, 260 horsepower, and that's the quickest Escape on sale today, but this is no slouch. It's responsive. You can feel kind of this wave of torque from the electric motor as well. You're perfectly happy with the power in this car. You get a little bit of a throaty engine note too from this 2.5 liter. Yeah, there's a lightness, maybe even a little bit of nimbleness to this chassis. This feels way more car/sedan than SUV, and I appreciate that. There is a compactness to this Escape that is really nice. It fits really well in our garage, which is a plus because we have kind of a tight garage. Let's put it into sport mode here and see how that affects the transmission and acceleration. Immediately I notice a little bit more throttle response off the line. Let's do a little 0 to 60 and see how that works. This engine kicks on almost immediately. I mean, this isn't the fastest car, but torque delivery is so seamless and consistent from 0 to 70 miles an hour that it's pretty good. It's pretty impressive. It's just very smooth. Now let's do a little braking test over here too from 60 miles an hour. Freaking out there as that truck's turning left. course, it's pretty slippery out today. We're not going to get an accurate representation, but brakes are actually pretty impressive. Let's throw it back into sport mode here. Pedal feel is one of the best I've ever felt on any hybrid. It feels just like the normal Ford brake pedal. It's firm, really pretty progressive throughout its travel. And for a planetary gear set, this transmission actually has, it's not droning away like normal CVTs. Again, this is an eCVT. The advantage to continuously variable transmissions is that they can have multiple inputs from gas and electric motors very easily and kind of figure all that out when it puts the power down. The steering is light. It's a little bit artificial feeling, you know, it feels electric. There's really not a lot of road feel. But around those corners back there, the handling was pretty decent. It feels like it has a nice low center of gravity. There's not a lot of body roll, but yet ride quality remains pretty good. Let's see how the radar guided cruise control works. You can skip 5-mile-an-hour increments. You can change your following distance between 3 different modes. I like how cruise control's on the left here, so you can just rest your arm, and this hand can be used for menus and things. You have a few different displays. Miles per gallon tells me how many electric miles I've done. A calm screen, which has nothing. Tire pressures. So far on this trip, we've done 18.8 miles to the gallon, which isn't great because we've been flooring it, but I don't imagine I'll be getting as good gas mileage this week, given how cold it is outside, but we'll see how it does. In recent years, I have really liked what Ford's done with its radar-guided cruise control. It's a responsive system. It seems to work pretty seamlessly, pretty well. Accelerates great around that truck that was just sitting in the left lane. It's quick to accelerate when you change your speed. Does a pretty good job with deceleration too, getting into that regen. Ford says that this can drive on the electric motors at speeds up to 85 miles an hour. But I don't really see how it would be able to maintain 85 with just the 88 kilowatt motor in the back. Really smooth, nice driving character from this Escape Hybrid. This is probably, until the plug-in variant comes in and comes on sale, this is probably the way to go. Not a lot of wind noise. Let's go into the infotainment here. You've got Ford's sync system, but now with Apple CarPlay, we've got pretty much everything we need. It's really responsive. We're very bright, clear. It's a nice screen. It looks really good. Let's go in and let's do a sound test. That's a little bit weird. Volume is on one side and tracks are on the other side, but I'm sure you get used to that after about 2 days in this car.
Hey squad, get your mask on. Gotta do your part, but make it fashion. So many looks for you to mix and match on. Adults, kids, everyone knows it's in. Come on.
Shop masks for the whole fam. 5-pack for just $15. Only at Old Navy and OldNavy.ca.
Nice system. As soon as you put your turn signal on to pass a slower vehicle, it'll start accelerating. And you start merging over into that other lane. It's a very intuitive, quick system to act. And I'll report later this week on how I felt about this car after spending some more days in it and putting some more miles on it. But overall, I really like the way this drives. There's a tightness, a responsiveness to this new Escape. It feels a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller. Very, very sedan slash larger, mature hatchback. Later on this week, we'll test this on a dry surface too, so we can kind of push the handling. I think it's going to be a pretty active chassis.
Number 2. Okay guys, this is gonna be the last one right here, the Cadillac CT5. I think it's just a normal car compared to the XTs. They're pretty good SUVs, so I don't know, which one do you think is better? The CTs or the XTs? What do you guys think? 0 to 60, boys. No, 0 to 50, actually. Basically, same as the Escape. It has modes, different modes and stuff. See, there's sport. 0 to 50 again. That's like 4 seconds. 0 to 60. Stop sign, boys. I recommend going right. I mean left or right. Oh, left. So rocky. Alright, last one, boys.
This week, I've been driving the 2020 Cadillac CT5V. So to clear up any confusion, this is the replacement for the Cadillac CTS V Sport. The true V products are going to be now called Blackwing, and that's coming out later this year. It's going to have a supercharged V8, over 600 horsepower. This, however, is powered by a twin-turbo V6 that makes 360 horsepower and around 400 pound-feet of torque. It also comes in all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive, but this car that we have today is equipped with all-wheel drive. It has GM's and Ford's shared 10-speed automatic transmission, which I will say is quite good in this car, and a pretty nicely designed interior, quite Cadillac-like, unoffensive, if a bit dull and drab, but you have some nice carbon fiber accents, pretty good ergonomics. They've really kind of figured out the Q system too. It's easy to use. There's lots of redundancy. There are scroll wheels. You can use the touch screen. Apple CarPlay display is nice and big. However, it is a little bit low contrast at an angle. You can see how it changes there. But otherwise, pretty nice overall car. You get heated and cooled seats, climate control buttons, buttons to change your drive modes. And this does have some pretty sporty drive modes. It also has an active exhaust, which is fun, and that is helped a little bit by the Bose sound system in this car. Once we get going, you'll hear that this CT5 does make some pretty sweet V6 noises. So let's walk you around this. We'll go for a quick drive. I'll show you guys what this Bose sound system sounds like in a sound test. And give you guys an idea what this CT5V is like. I think on the exterior it actually looks pretty darn good. They've nailed the proportions of this sedan. I like the blacked out front grille. And I do like the design language of this a lot more than the standard Cadillac CT5. You have nice 19-inch wheels wrapped in Michelin Pilot 4S tires. They're a little noisy, like always, but they handle awesome and the grip is amazing. And I will say the CT5 does a pretty good job of isolating you from the road impact noise that's pretty inherent with these Michelins. In this black, it just looks so good. It really accents the lighting throughout this car. In the back, you get a pretty decent sized trunk. The seats fold down. You've got a tow hook there. Place to fold the trunk down. And a little bit of a throaty growl from the exhaust, which is pretty cool. Do like the design on these taillights. And at night, these door handles light up, which is pretty cool. When we finish this drive, the sun will have set, and we'll get a good view of that. The back seat is also pretty spacious. I have plenty of leg room back here. This is kind of slightly larger than the BMW 3 Series, but smaller than the 5 Series that it's supposed to kind of compete against. So it's kind of a nice middle ground. Pricing for this is around $50,000. I don't have a Monroney on this car, but I anticipate there's probably about 10 grand worth of extras on this. So this is probably around 60, which is in line with its competition. I think it looks great. Let's pop the hood, show you guys the engine bay. Twin turbo V6. All right, let's take this thing for a drive and see what it's like behind the wheel. Overall, the materials in this are decent, though you can find some GM quality buttons and plastic switch gear, but honestly, for the most part, it's pretty nice in here. All 4 windows are automatic, which is great. The door handle feels nice. The infotainment is reasonably quick and responsive. The touchscreen is actually quite good. And if you go into the navigation, you can pinch and use this kind of like you would your phone, which is nice. Though who uses navigation anymore? You can't quite do that in Apple CarPlay with Waze and Google Maps. Nice high-resolution reverse camera and 360-degree camera. There's a lot of redundancy, like I said, in this CT5, but one thing that I found was kind of entertaining is that you can have up to 5 speedometers on this. So you have the speedometer on the top of the display, the speedometer in the main display, you have the analog speedometer, you engage cruise control and set your speed, and then you have your speedometer in the heads-up display. That adds up to 5 speedos that you can have, and you'll never be wanting to know what speed you're going, which I think is a little bit redundant, a little bit silly, but that's okay. Let's put us into V mode here. This is a customizable mode, a lot like the BMW M modes. Single press of the steering wheel. You can set it to whatever settings you like. I have everything pretty much in sport, suspension tuning. The magnetic dampers in this feel great. The exhaust has a few different modes where you can make it louder. And of course, as soon as you set off, these seat belts give you a little bit of a hug, like in many Cadillac products. We have a few different drive modes. I've mostly been driving around in Tour this week, and that does seem to be a pretty nice overall daily drive mode. I mean, this thing, the transmission programming shifts great, the engine has enough power, the suspension feels really good in that mode under performance driving and normal driving. You can definitely play with the modes and have some fun with this thing, but in normal tour mode, this car has really nice tuning. The steering is pretty good too for an electronic rack. You get a decent amount of feel. It's a little bit dead on center, but once you load it up around a corner, it's actually not too bad. Let's throw it into... Oh, let's do track here, why not? These shifts are super quick, and you can hear also in track mode, it'll give you a little bit of a downshift under braking, and that's good because using this car with the paddle shifters is a little bit of a frustrating experience. You can hear there's just a little bit of a delay, mostly on downshifts. Upshifts are pretty bang on instant. There are also multiple traction control modes. So if you put this into track mode, and then you turn traction control off, you can go in and adjust multitude of settings. That pop between shifts is actually pretty satisfying. You can feel the suspension stiffen up quite a bit in track mode here. And there's a good amount of mechanical grip. You can really utilize this all-wheel drive system. Once we get a little bit of tire scrub from the front wheels, that seatbelt tightens up. Knows that I'm either about to crash or that I need the extra support. Alright, well you get the idea. There are some modes in here that could make this a pretty enjoyable track car if you wanted to take it out on track. You get the settings right, you can kind of turn everything off, slide this thing around a little bit, and it feels like it's pretty neutral, it handles well. There's a lot of grip, especially from these Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. And if you just leave it in automatic, the transmission seems to do pretty well on its own. And there's some performance here too. I mean, this is right up here in line with the rest of its class of sporty performance sedans. I will say, comparing this in the marketplace, this is a pretty nice overall package. It's kind of a conservative vehicle overall in its design language, but the driving dynamics, I think, are pretty much right up there with the BMW M340, and you could probably get into one of these a little bit cheaper than the M340 too. But, you know, it's kind of up to personal preference. I think definitely the interior quality and the overall feel of the BMW, it feels more special. But next year, when they change that grille, this CT5 is probably going to be looking pretty good next to the new 3 and 4 Series. I do like the way this thing sounds too. It does make a good noise. This being a 10-speed, you get those ultra close ratios, so you can get the most out of your power band between gears, and that is very nice. This also has radar guided cruise control, which is an optional extra. However, it hasn't been consistently working for me this week, though it is working right now. Maybe it was because I had traction control off at one point. A little bit confused on that, but it does work. It is an optional extra, however, that you have to pay for. And it works great. It's a very nice system. No Super Cruise yet in the CT5, though it may come next year. And that would be a very welcome addition to this car.
Here's one tip to check your cat's at its best. You should feel but not see their ribs under their fur. Perfect size. Check your cats.
Otherwise,